You guys are still muted, FYI.
Good morning, Amy. I heard you, but I don't know if they can hear us or not.
Thanks,
That's why I put it in the chat.
Thanks, Trisha.
Amy, can you tell on your screen if it looks like they're in the meeting? Like as in like they're talking?
Gary noted that they're having technical issues in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Vandenberg, second by Director Jackman. I have two items I need to bring up. Chair, also we haven't granted freedom of the floor, but I see an issue in chat, maybe the same. First, the agenda is missing an item. We had a referral item from last month. It's in this agenda package because it's in last month's meeting. But the referred item has to come to this meeting. The item's time sensitive because it needs to go to the board by June if we're going to act. So that is the item regarding the airport funding, 8.3. So that should be added. I think it would show up as old business or referred business. The other item I wanted to question, and I don't know who's acting as parliamentarian. There's a staff report under current item 8.4 that makes reference to materials that are not part of the January Creston Valley Services Committee public agenda. So I checked Creston Valley Services and board agendas in camera and movement motions to open. Any items discussed in January that were in camera have never been moved out of. So I don't think we can have a proper discussion on item 8.4 unless either we release the report, which is referred to, or we refer this, let it go to board, allow board to release that report, then the public know what we're talking about. So there's two items that I think we need to add. The one is referral. And I'd like a parliamentarian or ruling on the appropriateness. I can't speak fully to item 8.4 because the staff report on page 1 of 3 makes reference to material that's not open at this time. The town of Creston staff report. So, you answer that. Board Chair Watson, I would offer freedom of the floor if I'd like to Councillor Dumas and Board Chair Watson.
Okay. By Director Vandenberg, all in favor of that. So we have freedom of the floor. So Director Watson, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Mine wasn't related to the issues Dr. Jackman raised, but if there's anything on the agenda that indicates it's still in camera, I'm assuming 8.4 is what's on 8.4 for the agenda I'm looking at is the airport agreement.
Yes.
And if there's in-camera items in there, and it's actually a report from the town of Creston has to release that, and we should not have it on an open agenda.
So it's on the town press open agenda on Tuesday, which means it is not in camera.
If I might share, the conversation with us as directors has not been released as an open conversation. That's why I'm looking for parliamentarians to say, there's two entities here. Did you release the report that's referred to? Or just make reference to the fact there was a conversation about governance, etc.
Well, on Tuesday's agenda, we did a report and an update. And if it still pertains to in-camera items, then we could refer that to the in-camera meeting.
I believe we should, because I can't speak openly. And the way it's worded now, this makes a statement that in January 2026 report to the Creston Valley Services Committee outlined, etc. Nobody has any idea what that is.
Okay. Well,
and I can't speak to it in open.
We can hold that in advance and include it in a closed meeting if you prefer.
I do have two things on your agenda I need to raise.
Okay.
There's two reports that are actually board-funded entities, and I strongly recommend that sub-regional services do not discuss board-funded entities. That's the Kootenay Food Policy Council and the Kootenay Boundary Farm Advisors. If you want to receive them for information, that's fine, but if there's discussion on support for that program and whatnot, that really needs to be received at board. And I also want to note
it is just for information. That was the intent to have one this meeting.
Great. And then just make sure they end up on the board agenda as well, because as the rep, it's great that you're reporting out and providing those, but the board needs to see those. So that's good. The other one is just be aware when you're adding a ton of things to the agenda as a late item, there is a process for that. Deadlines have a purpose. If these are just for information, it's not as much of a big deal, but anything related to staff needing to be involved and or aware is a big part of the deadline for agendas. Also the public to know and have time to review. So just a cautionary note on all the late items.
Yeah, and I think again, they were added for information.
And I appreciate the late items, but these are not late items, and they are for information and the reports.
Yeah.
So, Chair, on today's agenda, are we removing item 8 for the Creston Valley Airport from the open agenda?
Yes.
And then we have to include the referred item, automatically this agenda, and that's also happens to be about the Creston Valley Airport, but a different objective.
So you want to just make a motion that those go to close?
No, the referred one from open has to be on this agenda open. And the other item I just removed from the agenda, whether we talk about it closed or not, it's not a public issue. It's just removed from the open agenda.
Okay. And that's just 8.4. Well, hearing all that, we have a motion to accept the agenda as amended. Director Jackman, second Director Tierney, all in favor? Motion carried. We will have sorted that out. And receive the minutes from the May 7th Creston Valley Services meeting. Everybody good with that?
With referred item.
And we will move to our delegations, Creston Valley Dance Society. Who's important? I think most of your presentation will be on this screen.
Okay, just so you know, that the annual general meeting report was kind of for your information, and I may refer to a couple things in there, but mostly I'll just be speaking. That's okay. So good morning, I'm Karen Shannon, and I serve as treasurer of the Creston Valley Debt Society. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you today. Joining me this morning are Nancy Devano, our chairperson, Cindy Burdahl is our drop-in and outreach coordinator who can speak briefly about our clients and the direct support she provides. Stephen Morrison is a former practicum student, now a board member who provides coordinator coverage and serves as our official media and communication spokesperson. Jana Wirenga is our newest addition, and she is the communications and peer support worker. We are here today with three goals. Firstly, to highlight the meaningful work being done through our daily drop-in and outreach program. Two, to thank you for the financial support from the regional direct districts to sustain these critical services. We did get notification yesterday of the approval, so thank you so much. And three, to encourage your advocacy for increased provincial and federal resources for Creston and the surrounding area. The Creston Valley Debt Society is a registered charitable organization founded to address a clear and urgent gap in our community: the need for safe, dignified support for Creston's unhoused and marginally housed residents. Our initial focus was to establish a homeless shelter to serve the 8 to 10 individuals in our community who needed it most. These are our neighbors. Their lives matter. When we were unable to open a shelter for the 2024-25 winter season, we responded quickly and decisively. We expanded our informal outreach efforts into a structured daily drop-in, launching in mid-December 2024. On January 2nd, we hired Cindy Burdahl as our drop-in and outreach coordinator, a pivotal step in formalizing and expanding our services. We launched through the generosity of our community. Trinity Treasures Thrift Shop donated funds to cover Cindy's wages for the first 3 months. And a couple who are members of the Trinity United Church donated funds to cover our rent for the first 3.5 months. We operate out of the Trinity United Church, paying approximately $25,000 annually in rent, providing the church with valuable revenue stream that has helped keep its doors open. In fact, they are no longer talking about closing. So that is a major change in our community. What began as an emergency winter response, we really only did this until the end of March because we were just hoping to get people through the winter. What we realized, it has now grown into an established ongoing service that our community depends on. We are no longer a program at risk of closure. We are a program that is growing to meet growing needs. Our clients are Creston and area residents living in tents, unserviced campers, abandoned sheds, vehicles, and wherever they can find shelter. They are vulnerable to cold, illness, isolation, and food insecurity. When we launched in December 2024, we were serving an average of 12 to 15 clients a day. Today, as rising groceries costs push more residents to the margins, we are now serving 20 to 30 clients 6 days a week. Week in and week out, and that number continues to grow. Our daily drop-in program offers hot nutritional meals every day, hearty home-style dishes with protein and fresh vegetables, the kind of meal any of us would be proud to serve at our own table. That was the commitment the Food Brigade made at the very beginning, that we are serving food that will keep people alive, not and have them feel as healthy as possible while they're struggling with their living circumstances. Outreach and coordination services through Cindy, connecting clients to health, housing, income, and social support. So after drop-in, Cindy is often very busy meeting people to get laundromat services, propane for their stuff, and and a safe, welcoming and space that reduces isolation and increases dignity. Advocacy within health and social systems on behalf of our clients. Every Thursday afternoon, we are host to numerous local resource organizations such as KCCS, also known as the Women's Shelter, Kootenai Employment Services, a BC government representative, and a local GP every Thursday to help clients with prescriptions and referrals, as none have a doctor. Our daily food cost in 2025 was about $23 per day, feeding 12 to 15 people. An impressive achievement made possible through food bank partnerships and generous private food donations. Because we are not selling any food, we can't take donations from private citizens. We have a gentleman that makes us a soup pot every Thursday. Yes, he is a caregiver, and it's how he can help in the community is to, while looking after his wife, to actually make a soup and bring it in. So yeah, we've grown to love him. In 2025, our total operating expenses amounted to $89,000. This figure encompassed all the costs required to maintain and deliver our daily programs and services to the community. So rent was $25,000 for the year. Food costs were $7,600. The staff, so one paid coordinator, was $33,000. In 2025, we secured $50,000 in grants from a variety of partners and supporters. So we managed to get the majority done through grants, and then we have the large private donations through the thrift store, and then some personal donations as well that got us through. So the grants, we have the Community Action Initiative grant for $19,000. United Church of Canada Seeds of Hope grant, that is through their foundation. It was $20,000. And it's not one we can get again because it's to help programs that are just starting out. So the Seeds of Hope. And Creston and District Credit Union Community Grant, $2,500. Interior Health Cold Weather Necessity Grant, $5,000. Creston Valley Gleaner Society for a new freezer for us for $1,500. Town of Creston Discretionary Fund, $1,500. And District A Discretionary Fund, $500. And we just didn't get around to asking the rest because we got exhausted. This was at the end of the year. We were trying to make it through. The remainder was covered through private donations and fundraising efforts. So for 2026, our budget is $93,330, and that is to keep along just doing the same program, so not additional. That figure was set before the groceries went up so significantly this year. So we're already seeing an increase in expenses, so we expect it to be a little higher. On the other hand, we're also seeing more generosity from the community and the food bank actually stepping up even more to help us. So they're doing everything they can to help us keep the food down. We have so far, after yesterday being informed of the town's discretionary fund of $2,000 and of District A and B of $1,000 and District D of $500. After that, we have secured $84,500 in grants for this year. So we have again the Community Action Initiative grant. It's $33,000 this year. Rural Network Development Reaching Home grant, $39,000. And Interior Health Cold Weather Necessities grant, $2,500. BC Housing Supplement to Interior Health Cold Weather grant because it had reduced by half. BC Housing stepped up and gave us $3,000. Interior health, extreme heat and smoke grant, so that we've heard we're approved, we just don't have the finances yet, but that's 2,500, so that will be coming in the next week. So yes, we are doing well. We're not quite there, but pretty close. So we're feeling like, okay, we're just trying to find the sustainable. It would be nice to not be searching constantly. Because of course, Nancy and I are doing this completely as volunteers at this point. I have a different job. So yeah. So it is a lot. Homelessness and marginal housing are not exclusively urban challenges. The individuals we serve come from across the Creston Valley and surrounding rural areas, your communities. The services we provide reduce pressure on the emergency health services, reduce public safety concerns, and provide a compassionate, cost-effective, community-based response to vulnerability. I would also argue, after reading the paper last night, that the dense society also has a part in the crime going down. Desperate people do desperate things, and our entire goal is to take the desperation out of our clients' lives. Get them the camping supplies that they need, get them the food, get them the water, ensure that, yeah, they can live as well as possible while they're struggling. So, while we weren't mentioned, I would like to say I think we're also part of that solution. Every dollar invested in prevention and daily support saves significantly more in downstream emergency response costs. I'd like to leave you with my card just asking for your voices. The needs of Creston's most vulnerable residents require sustained attention at the provincial and federal levels. We encourage you as regional districts to advocate alongside us for increased funding for rural homelessness and housing supports, expanded mental health and addiction services in rural communities. It is appalling that Creston does not have a substance abuse counselor for adults. Anyone over 25 cannot get a counselor here. It is appalling. Sustainable provincial and federal investments in community-based outreach programs like ours. The Creston Valley Dense Society exists because our community refused to look away. With your support, we can continue to take the desperation out of the daily lives of the most vulnerable neighbors. One meal, one conversation, one connection at a time. Thank you for helping us help them.
Director Vandenberg, we'll have some questions for you now.
Yes, and I will. Is there anything you wanted to?
We'll.
Yeah, no, this-
Take up too much more time. I just want to tell you that.
Yes, have a seat here while
Okay.
the questions.
Have a few hard copies. I see. Thank you for putting up our annual general report. You received that, I think, electronically. If anybody wanted a hard copy, then there's one here for you. If you'd like a hard copy of the overview of what happens at the drop-in program, then you're welcome to take one. And one of the things that we do is we talk about supporting our vulnerable folks through our drop-in program, and that's one of our pillars. We have three. So one is to provide that ongoing daily support through drop-in. The second is community education to reduce stigma and build understanding. And the third one is to advocate for a shelter in Creston. And so this poster is just for our second pillar about community education. We've been partnering with the library and with our community action, Creston Community Action Team to do presentations throughout the community, through our website, through our Facebook page, through other programs and activities to provide information for people, real information, and to dispel the myths about homelessness and mental illness and substance use and so on. So I just wanted to say those things. We can certainly answer questions, but did anybody else from the team want to have anything to say?
One thing, Steve We did some amazing radio ads, so I don't know if you ever listened to the radio, but in April, we did a series through the community action team, just some advertising for different radio ads, and they were amazing. And it takes away me ever having to get on radio again. Steve's way good at it.
Our time was somewhat limited today, so
Yeah,
we'll
okay.
go with questions and,
Can I just say something?
yes, you can say something, but just recognize that our time is
Yeah.
limited.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm Cindy. I'm the outreach coordinator for the Creston Valley Dance Society. I just want to say from the time that I started, it's a year and a half ago, January, and from where we are now, it's just been amazing. The people that have come into us who have needed help and have been in really rough places, have appreciated everything that we have done for them. And I've seen them grow. And I've also been seeing people who are doing better in their life and they are working towards, getting clean and getting back into getting their children and getting a place and wanting to get into work and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of kudos for all the people that we have that come to the Creston Valley Dance Society, the luncheon, and the people who help support them. And I think, yes, we should have a shelter for, there is a few out there still that do need extra help. And having a shelter is something that is going to get them to the next step. Just want to say that.
And while I think we are seeing more clients that are marginally housed, I don't know that overall the amount that are actually on the street completely are have room. I would still guess that's somewhere between 8 and 12.
Yeah, for sure.
The larger amount are people that are struggling and can't afford to feed them or don't have the way of cooking. So they are living in a situation where cooking is not an option. So, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Dr. Vandenberg, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. It would have been nice to have this in ahead of the request because it does paint an accurate and colorful picture for sure. So the messaging to us today is advocacy.
Yeah.
And we certainly are voices that are prepared to do that sort of thing. I do note that your client list is doubled in a short period of time. You talk about sustainability. Those are kind of conflicting statements in that regard. But my question is, you have clients that are in Camden and rural. They're outside of Creston.
Yes.
I know.
Outside of Creston, yes, there are.
Yeah, Kitchener.
Yes.
Okay. And so how did they get access? Do you go to them or do they have to come to you?
Both.
Okay.
Both. So we have them come in. Yes, maybe you should answer that because you have more.
Yeah, I live in Kitchen myself. So what I do is after hours and stuff like that, whatever it is that they need, if they're unable to come into the town themselves or whatever, my job, my position is I bring out some food for them. If they need propane for the winter, I also deliver that because again, we don't want them to be freezing out there, in the cold and stuff like that, especially on rainy days, rain and snow days or whatnot. And they do find ways to come into town as well. The encampment out there is amazingly clean, like unbelievably clean. Yes, and the community out there, because I live out in Kitchener, they have no problems with it. They do know who some of the people are and whatnot. So, but yeah, it's that's what I do. If they can't make it in, I go out there too.
Thank you.
Dr. Jackman.
Yeah, thanks through the chair. Yeah, and if you went 90 kilometers straight north of here, you'd find another group of people who are seasonally unhoused because they can make arrangements in the winter when people aren't using their vacation property to house sit. And then this time of year, they move into tents and vans and into the bush with kids. It's a reality. The advocacy part, I mean, it's interesting pointing out client list doubles. People who are in need have always been here. There's just, you don't talk to people unless they feel safe. So you have a program, you've made contact, that gives you the advantage of collecting a little bit of data. You feed that data, of course, to Valley Community Services. I know how Justine has to cobble together funding, so on just the adult mental health and substance abuse side, until she can make the case with data, she can't get that little trickle of funding, which would be another 0.2 or 0.25 allocation, and she juggles all her staff to help. So it's a good thing out of this. Your contact, level of contact showing the extent of the issue will finally, hopefully, justify that trickle of funding through Valley Community Services. So kudos for that. And the more numbers we can provide, the better. We do sometimes, like there's the cities are mandated to do the homeless counts, and rural, it's kind of a limbo thing, I think. It'd be interesting if to support when Justine hopefully will go to try and get an additional funding stream. If you do some outreach beyond Kitchener and the other directions, find out who else is living where. As you drive around, I'm gonna pick on Board Chair Watson's area. When I drive from here to Kamloops, sometimes I drive in the main roads, sometimes I drive the back roads. You can see some interesting living conditions on the way, and I do the same in Area K. I've driven back roads just because look at the ferry timing, and I get another 20 minutes to drive back road. Everywhere you go, there's marginal living conditions. So at least for A, B, and C, when it comes to Valley Community Services, there must be a way to get a few contacts, not to make people feel they're being challenged or threatened, just to get a little bit of data so that she can make a better case for funding.
Can I speak to that, please?
Sure.
Yeah, so we've been doing data collection since we started the program last year, and I'm not sure if the handout includes so we have data on our folks who are struggling with mental health abuse, struggling with substance use, dealing with trauma, living in poverty, and so on. So those we published that information last year. We're in the process right now of updating our information for this year, and we're expanding it and so on. So we have all of that information with all of the clients, including with all of the clients who run through KCCS, the women's shelter, because they also do data collection. So we combined our data. We work together with KCCS. VCS is a partner on the side, but like none of our programs are supported through VCS. And that is one of the issues that we have with our unhoused and marginally housed, is that there are no government supported programs that are coming into Creston to help those folks. What they do at VCS is families and children, the counseling for the most part, and then there's, Ministry of Family and Children's Services. So we don't even have a social worker that works directly with adults at this level. As Karen mentioned, nor an addictions counselor. So what we're really looking at is because BC Housing provides programs, but not in Creston. And Ministry of Social Development and Poverty Reduction provides programs, but not in Creston. You see them in and so on and so forth. Interior Health supports what we're doing, but only with small grants. So we need sustainable programs in Creston that actually allow us to hire staff and to go year to year. So contracts is what we're looking at. So just to clarify that, in case you're wondering, this should not be a volunteer-driven activity ongoing. This is just what we have to do now. But the only reason we've been able to hire staff is because we've chased down other grants from other places that have allowed us, a few months and 1 year at a time to kind of keep going. So thank you.
And one that I didn't mention that is also helping us with some data would be Jana. It's a recent hire. She has just been hired, very part-time, but through a grant for a stipend through the United Way. So we have got some monies and we are topping it up. Now we have her as our communications and peer support. So she's actually meeting with clients now at the drop-in, doing an intake. What are your major needs, so that we can actually take the next step and see, a lot of what she's finding is they don't know what services are out there. So, and Cindy is running, keeping them fed, keeping all the outreach services. So it's taking the next step. It's making sure that we can help where we can.
Yeah, we'll have to, but we really appreciate your presentation. I know most of you personally, and I do appreciate so much what you do here. And I know there's a growing sense of frustration, both in, struggling for funding.
Yes,
Growing
oh,
sense of
that is,
And there's a growing frustration in the rising cost of everything, because it just brings you more people. And I wish there was a magic solution for that, and we know there isn't. So, again, we really appreciate what you do, and I know it's just going to keep growing. It's not going to shrink. And so,
luckily, we're very stubborn.
well, I wouldn't call it stubborn. You're tenacious.
We're tenacious, let's go with that.
Yeah.
It's a great word.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll move on to the delegation from the Creston Valley Chamber of Commerce.
And thank you so much.
Thanks for coming and presenting.
Everyone's just stick around tonight. Morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for putting it up there. That's great, thank you. Hi, my name is Jessica Fitchman. I'm the Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here with our Vice President, Natasha Hashcroft. And we, as it says on the agenda, are here to discuss or to present on our project, which we've applied for community development funds for. So in this, I'm going to go through some context and background of how we got to where we are right now and what's coming next. I totally using you, Robin. Thank you. Okay. In 2023, the Chamber of Commerce did some strategic planning through the help of our Castlegar counterpart, Tammy Berrigan-Burke, from that Chamber of Commerce. And the pillars were operational foundation for the Chamber, membership growth, community and business engagement, and financial stability. We took some huge, we took some good steps towards that. One of those was selling our building to the town of Creston, which gave us a small nest egg to work with, hired me to take care of operational stuff. We're pretty good so far, I think. Business walks, policy structure, all that kind of stuff. In 2024, we did a rural collaboration feasibility study, and the spirit of that was discovering whether or not maybe building an exhibition and event center was something our community could use. And from that was a very, yes, we'd love that, but also a clear defined need that a co-working space is needed. Some farther context is that idea of a co-working space has been an economic development project and initiative that was identified over 10 years ago through a few other groups, which is kind of cool. Okay, next, ready. With our work with Impact Toolbox and funded through at TBC, we came up with the theory of a change, which is, I've provided it before, but it's a little snapshot here that talks about where we interviewed and met with over 90 not-for-profits within our community and way more community members at the time to discover what we need. And like I said, this is where co-working space was really super duper defined. Next one, Robin, please. Thank you. So from that came building a social enterprise model where we just developed a business plan for the chamber to work on our financial sustainability, memberships, meeting rooms, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And keep going. Then we had our business plan already set up, and then a third floor opportunity landed with us, which was super exciting. We were approached with the idea of creating a Creston Business Center, 5,000 square feet space that has been sitting empty and underutilized, not utilized at all, since it was built. Right down in downtown, and it's a great spot in the heart of our town. So this sparked the creation of our flagship asset. Next, ta-da! Are you taking notes and scroll? Oh, you're amazing. Okay, sweet. 301 suite co-working space. So we adapted our business plan that we had already talked about a couple slides ago to then match that Creston Business Center idea with the co-working space and the social enterprise that gives us the financial stability that supports all the organizations we talk to, as well as small businesses and the community. Let's keep going. Thank you. So over the last 6 months, I've been designing the space alongside the architects and the building owners and the developer to design a floor plan that maximizes the use of the space as well as keeps it very flexible so that it can be utilized in many different ways for us. It's not just office space and it's not just event space. It's a little bit of anything and everything that we need. This is a great photo to show the before of where we started. It was completely empty up there, and the architect did the bottom left one, showing some development of spaces inside. I did the middle one, which is the kitchen through IKEA. I'm feeling pretty good about my architectural skills there. Thank you. And this one is our floor plan. So in the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see the learning studio. This one is the front corner that has the nicest views and should seat 25 to 30 people. The next one is a chamber office, and then there's 10 anchor tenant offices. These anchor tenant offices are yearly leases paid monthly. You'll also see on the top left a boardroom, 12 to 15 people that should sit, then a media room for content creation and podcasting, and 2 office for a days. That's a drop-in multi-use office, half day, full day, whatever the needs. Beside that is the cafe bench style working space, then 10 flex desks, 4 of which will be dedicated. So someone could put, that's my desk. I always use that one spot. All together with the window seats and the bench spot, there are 13 fixed, sort of fixed, it's flexible, but spaces to utilize for drop-in. And then there's a communal couch area and a kitchenette. In this plan, there's also a local food vending machine that will go towards our sustainability, the opportunity to do printing. And I better check my list because I'm going by my memory, which should be pretty good because this is my 3rd time saying this presentation. Oh, where the flex desks, the bench, and the common area is actually created to be flexible. We can put all the desks into the storage room, and we have a very large event space that we could utilize for any meetings and lunch and learns and all the businessy bits and community bits we might need. Oh yeah, thank you. That was right there. Virtual member is also another amenity that will be offered in this space. So that is where you have, just like in the regional district, there are many businesses and they are using their home addresses for their businesses, which isn't always the most professional or sometimes safest way to be doing business. So one thing that we get to offer is virtual membership. We would collect their mail, we give them professional photos for their Google profile and their websites, and they have a place of business that exists for them that then they can utilize in a shorter term. A longer term, I guess. Any questions about the space before we keep going? While we're looking at the suite floor one. No? Okay, keep going. So in December, the board committed a portion of their nest egg towards creating this, and we worked closely with the building owners to negotiate tenant improvements. And that is where we did a lot of work. It was really great. Next. And then it's been like fast forward since then. I had taken one of the directors through and he's like, I can't believe you didn't talk about this for another year and it's already this far. And this actually doesn't really reflect where we are anymore since these photos were taken. We now have drywall, mud and tapes. They'll be painting and putting in flooring this week. It's on. Okay, next. I know a lot about 2-inch conduit and paint samples now, but I didn't before. That top front corner or the right-hand side of this picture is the learning studio I was telling you about, and the chamber office so that we're at the front to be able to welcome people into the space. Next. Right now, working on operational setup of the space. Now that it's actually being built, we're implementing a software program to manage those that come in, to help us with staffing capacity, and a booking platform, and preparing all of our structure, policies, and all of our launch communications and marketing that go into that. Let's keep going. And now we are working on the fundraising pieces, applying for grants, local business sponsorships. And we'll do a sponsorship art installation when you come off the elevators. There's a really nice spot to do an installation where we have like a tactile building block type of installation to thank those that have taken the leap to support us in this economic driver. And I think one thing that I didn't get to say on here before I submitted my presentation is that when I built a conservative budget for this place, it was based on the first 6 months being at 50% occupancy, and we're already over that with our pre-sales, and that feels really good and encouraging. And then the last slide is, we're gonna open July 2nd. That's only 5 weeks away. And that's where we're at. And I would love to take all the questions you might have about the project.
Director Vandenberg.
Hey, impressive attributes for sure. So just some basic kind of like financial type questions. Is the ownership, is this a division of the chamber? Do the financials reflect both the chamber and 301, or
So
are they going to be separate?
The financials that I've submitted to you in the budget that you have is for this specific piece in itself, to show that how it will look after itself. You can also see in those financials that I've put in a very robust repayment plan back to the chamber for the additional seed funding that's gone in there.
So, but I'm wondering, is this a division? So going forward, is it a separate standing alone entity?
It is not. It is a chamber initiative, though I am building it so that it could be broken in the future. In terms of timeline, we've got a 5-year lease. So we're not going anywhere for a while.
Director Jackman.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk a little more about the request for funding, community
Absolutely.
development funding, and it's always little things that cause us, angst, I don't want to use the word. So I have our balances. We get Angela Fund sends us our balances. I don't know if you've seen them. Area A right now, community development holding 28,600. Our allocation for 2026 isn't here yet. By the time we get it, it may be too late to act on that because it's an election year. It's still a number. And then I have the numbers in front of me. Area B has a little less than that. Area C is an anomaly, but that's nothing to do with the current director. That's a whole other story. You also have discretionary grant balances. And Area A right now is 28,600. By the time we get our allocation in August, so sorry, to the wrong one. Discretionary balance is 26,900. Discretionary is property taxes. Province will take the money from us. You put it in their pocket, give it to us later. We won't be able to access any more money. It will essentially stay there for whoever's next director next year, and that amount is preset. Community development money, that's payments in lieu of taxes. It's variable depending on how that's. It's a little different system. So right now I have a request been sitting on for $10,000. I don't know what you've asked areas B and C. That's the first question, so I can understand. The other thing is there are a few community initiatives, one of them in particular that is so close to its 2.1 whatever million dollar total for a major community project, and they have to leverage that with non-federal money. So I have to decide in a very short while. Want to leave money for whoever's around, whether a person like me gets elected or not, it's totally unknown. I want to leave money for the next person. I want to support the time-sensitive projects in Area A. I want to understand how sensitive is this funding this time to this project, because it matters. Because we only have another month or so to move money.
Mm-hmm.
And so what if you ask for areas B and C instead of Area A? And how critical is that time much right now?
So in the application, I did list that. I've asked for 10 from both of them.
Is
as well
it
as
10
20
from all?
20
Sorry, I
from the
missed that. I missed that.
That's okay. And from the town. And I really appreciate that explanation, how that works for you and where it's at. What I found extremely interesting, and I was actually quite surprised when I did my market research about those that are going to utilize the space, was the amount of trades businesses that are sitting in their cars in town using free Wi-Fi to do all of their work. Low cost 10 grand, you can come hang out in the co-working space.
Yeah.
If I might, Chair, I've done exactly that. In my construction consulting, I have different sites to go to. I'd sit outside the chamber building and check my personal messages on my computer to see who's ready. I would drive to Kitchener, I'd drive to West Creston, wherever I had to go. I do understand, it's nice to see a prorated approach, but it is the home base or out of your backseat of your car or your back of your vehicle business that also needs this kind of space to meet clients. So we just need to get a sense. So time criticality. If we didn't move money until after the election, as you're opening, how critical is that?
So we've staggered our fixturing purchases to get ready for exactly this question. And we are, our budget is to fixture those permanent spots, the anchor tenant spots, the kitchen, the flex desks, and some of the offices. I've also asked for other funding from other places when it comes to the community space. So I've really broken it out and find what's exactly tailored to that space. We do need the support to push it over the line in the next 5 weeks. And it's immediate, which feels really nice. Not to discount any other projects because I come to all these meetings and I see how much need is out there. Back to what you're saying, I do sit in my car to do my work when I'm in town. And we are very lucky to have places like the library, like the rec center here, visitor center. It's not always appropriate when it comes to doing business and driving economy in this community, as you know. Another thing that I really want to point out is from my market research, again, Tammy from Castlegar, the amount of interview and workforce development that can take place in a space like this was surprising to her. Businesses will be, especially if they're home businesses, will be doing their interviews, you know, in that daily drop-in office. And to talk about those trades that are in the regional district, it's not just the trades people that are utilizing this place, it's also their family members that are supporting the back end of the business. We're talking bookkeeping, we're talking ordering and supplies, all of that office type of stuff that doesn't always fit in your house. Ellie. Oh, sorry, that's your job.
Dr. Chair, the other question first.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, thanks for coming and explaining all this. We're really envious. You've got a great workspace there, which would have been ideal for a number of groups. The building was, or the space was empty. I think I heard you say prior. Can you talk a little bit about what stake the owner of the building has into this? You're spending a lot of money there. Is that going to benefit the building owner? What stake does he have in it?
So the building owner put in 75% of tenant improvements, which is unheard of generally when it comes to renting space. So we were able to make this work thanks to that. So they are going to have a nice space if and when we leave. Like I said, we've also built this as a piece of the Chamber's project, but can be broken off in the future if it needs to be sold for somebody else. If there's a more appropriate organization that comes out of the works that might need to run this too, is also the possibility for that.
Mr. Bamber.
Thank you, through the chair. Great people on the job.
Okay.
I have to ask, so when I look at it from the perspective of public money, the questions that came to mind is how will the investment from the local taxpayers and your other investors be measured? Will you have a set of KPIs that you will use to just regulate how things are based on your plan? will you be able to report back to us your successes or your challenges? I mean, let's be realistic about it.
Absolutely.
But so are you then suggesting can you commit to a period of reporting some of the KPIs that you'll come up with to show and illustrate your successes or challenges so that we can see how you're doing? You're
First off,
asking for quite a bit of
absolutely,
taxpayer
yes.
money.
Commitment, I can
Yep.
do exactly that. And I want to follow that up with how exciting it is with this management software that we're implementing that will support exactly that and allow us to track all the details, who's in there, when they're using it, how long, and for what organizations will be able to come up with exactly that. What an opportunity to tailor any further projects that we do to support economic development.
So one or more of us may have some suggestions on those KPIs
Love it.
to take that off.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You say you have some anchor tenants. How much empty space do you have now? It could
So-
be rented.
Right? So we've got the 10 anchor tenants and we have 5 confirmed. And I interviewed 2 yesterday. And once we have the management software, which I'm doing next week, making available, set up so it's potentially for sure 5, 7 of the anchor tenants done. We have 3 community events already booked within the space, 2 in the fall, 1 in the spring, from some of the bigger regional funders, which was great to see some regional activity in there, as well as 5 flex desk committed spaces already.
Just set that off, like.
And a laundry list of letters of intent and not-for-profit organizations that would like to utilize the
Podcast space.
Oh, yeah, the podcast, there's
Good
four
job.
podcasts,
The
that's
media,
right.
the media room also has its own sort of demographic of people that will be using.
So I had one other kind of money question, I guess, in your budgets and the like, you have a line item referring to the chamber's refundable investment.
That's our initial seed money of 150,000.
So that is expected, anticipated to be drawn out in the very near term, over 5 years, over 3 years, sort of how, over the 5-year lease period, so that you have a cushion within the chamber, I assume.
Yeah, I put a really robust repayment system of over the next 3 years.
3 years.
Which we don't start repaying until next year, so it's a 2-year repayment. But based on the numbers and full usage, it's going to work great. It will not stop the chamber's operations as we only use a portion of our nest egg. We still have our own budget to keep going.
So it just, I've heard the space with you and I'm pretty impressed. Heard your presentation twice now. I know in Creston, there's a lot of home-based businesses. Some of them are in places in homes that are just simply not zoned for it. I'm not sure if you've tapped into that because I think some of these people would probably love to free up a room in their home that they're using for a business that they haven't had an alternative to. So if you haven't done that, I would encourage you to investigate that because I think that's another place where you could probably fill some offices.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not sure
I
how you
should talk
touch
to the
base, but-
bylaw officer maybe, or?
Yeah. Good idea, but anyway, I think that's another source of tenants because I think people would like to free up a room if they have an alternative, and I think you're providing the alternative. So happy to see that it's come this far already, and it would be great, as you've already said, that if it bursts at the seams, that's the best scenario we could have here. And we just encourage you to keep going with it, of course you will. And thanks for your presentation. Money part is stuff we have to discuss, but you know, you've made some asks of us, and we're willing to help where we can. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
thanks.
That's correct.
Oh, yeah, you totally can't read it. Okay, I won't blame you for not knowing. It's not your stuff.
So in the interest of time, items 7.1 to 7.5 are there for information added to the agenda and addendas for that purpose. And also for people that are following our agenda, I hope it provides valuable information for them. So we will just have them there as information. Go to new business, which would be H1 discussion item of Creston Valley Fire Smart Resiliency Committee Working Group. And I think that's something Nora is presenting. Very
Through the chair, was that question for me?
Yes, we're ready for your contribution here. The Creston Valley Fire Smart Resiliency Committee Working Group.
Yeah, so I guess as per the report, we have had the Creston Valley Fire Smart Resiliency Committee active for a number of years. It is funded in part by the RDCK through a UBCM CRI Fire Smart grant. In the last year, the Suku-Katsun committee or group was struck. That was a Yakanuki-led initiative and was brought under the umbrella of the Creston Valley Fire Smart Committee. Suku-Katsun is there to support prescribed and cultural fire within the Creston Valley and the larger Kootenay Lake area. And the RDCK is supporting that through IER funding for the coordination of that committee. The committee is closely tied to BC Wildfire. BC Wildfire is also a member at the table of the Creston Valley Fire Smart Resiliency Committee, as well as with the work that Suku-Katsun is doing. So they're working with Yakanuki and experts in prescribed fire to develop that work.
Is there any questions from directors? Director Bevler.
Yes, thank you, Nora. So we just happened to have a meeting with Creston Forest. I'm getting that stuck. Creston Community Forest the other day, and in the report they talked about their contribution to the actual work that they're doing in doing prescribed burns, that sort of thing. So, question that I have is, what is the IER funding? Do we physically support that through services and RDCK? Is the first question. I'll give you the second question as well. What are some of the prescribed burns that this group is looking at for 2026?
Yeah, so to the first question, the IER funding is provincial funding, the Indigenous Engagement Requirement funding under EDMA. And this fits well within that funding for what the RDCK has received. So this is not funding coming through taxation, and this is a one-time contribution. In terms of operational planning for 2027, that is not something that the RDCK has been part of. So that is individual initiatives between stakeholders, such as the community forest in Yakanuki or the Creston Valley Wildlife Management Area and Yakanuki or BC Wildfire. So I cannot speak further. I could find more information and bring that back to this committee, but in terms of specific projects, those are operational projects between the stakeholders, and the RDCK has been involved at a high level just in supporting the overall coordination of bringing those stakeholders together as needed.
I could ask another one.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. To follow up on that, Creston Community Forest is then therefore a partner in this, although they're not reflected in the document that I saw. I discovered from them that they're probably pretty much instrumental in starting the origin of this. And now it's kind of evolved into what you're presenting today. They have quite a large budget that they're working with to actually do the prescribed burnings. And so I thought that was interesting that it's not in the report, but I wonder, is this now becoming a parallel line, parallel group? I would hope that they're still working together in achieving the Fire Smart prescribed burning strategies.
Definitely. So sorry, through the chair, the purpose of the committee is to help coordinate and bring stakeholders together, bring funding opportunities together. So it's not happening in parallel, but once it comes to operational planning and funding of the individual prescribed fire sites, the same in a sense with the field treatment work that may occur. So the resiliency committee table is an opportunity to collaborate and plan to ensure that there's not overlapping planning where there's multiple interests, but individual members may be planning their own projects, and are not necessarily, there is great collaboration, but they're not obliged, for example, to notify in some cases either.
So my question is the Rod and Gun Club considered a stakeholder? Because in the past, they have participated in prescribed burning for habitat improvement. And I would think that was part of the Akanuki cultural practice at one point, was to burn for habitat improvement for their own sustenance. So I'm not sure if they're a party to this or the Provincial Wildlife Branch, because of the continuing need for habitat maintenance and improvement. But I'm wondering if they could be a part of this.
Yeah, through the chair, they have not been a member at the table to date. That's something that I could bring back to the table to discuss. Generally, the table members have been provincial and local government, First Nations, and larger tenure or landholders. I'm not sure the size of land that the Rod and Gun Club is looking after.
Okay, thanks. Thank you for that. And we will move then to the next one is the Kootenay and Boundary Farms Advisory Work Plan. So you've added it to the agenda, Director Vandenberg.
Right, that was meant to be for information.
Yes, and I'm happy with that. Move to 8.3, the other one, physician recruitment program update. That was again added for information. Is there any questions on that? Hearing none, we will move on. So 8.4, we will defer that to the following meeting. And 8.5, we will go with the, again, that's an update added for information. If you have any questions on it, but if not, we will move through that one quickly and go right to the old business then, Creston Valley Alternate Water Supply. And you requested that one as part of this meeting, Director.
I did.
Yeah, through the chair, yeah, thank you. I know this is a late item. I can provide a brief overview of the report. It is quite a long report with some new information in there. The report's intended to provide a summary of work completed to date, provide some additional information to the committee, both on the importance of agriculture in the valley, as well as some information related to the impacts of the Arrow Creek water treatment plant and the sensitivity of the Arrow Creek water system and watershed, and some more information about those competing demands. It's also intended to provide a framework and a bit of a gap analysis related to the next steps for this study. As you know, the associated engineering study was a high-level conceptual design study, feasibility study. It also looked to engage stakeholders and producers. Those stakeholders included the Akanuki. It was important to get that line of communication and an understanding on what their needs and requirements were, some of their concerns about the current use of water in the valley, as well as any future plans for agriculture, irrigation, water supply. So through that process, we were able to gain some buy-in and support, as well as information on location and routing of planned infrastructure, as well as some avoidance of culturally sensitive areas and related issues. Really, I mean, the basis of the study determined that it is a feasible concept using the Kootenay River as a source, has the support of Yakinuki. From a technical perspective, it's a reliable source. Many of the surface water sources within the valley are fully recorded by the province, meaning that no further water allocations are available. Groundwater resources in the valley, there's still lots of outstanding questions and concerns regarding surface water groundwater interactions between those groundwater sources and the Goat River. So a significant component of that associated engineering study looked at projecting future agricultural water demand under different climate and land use scenarios, using established models. Modeling generally showed increasing irrigation demand and water demand over time, particularly in areas like Erickson, where there's already a concentration of high value crops and water intensive crops. Yeah, a little water here. The infrastructure concept and sizing are built around those projected demands. I know there's been questions about, is there an ability to, downsize or reassess the projected demands and the infrastructure sizing requirements that come out of that? Definitely there is. This study was very high level. It looked at, what is the peak demand of water users in the valley, and how does that feed back into a design concept? For instance, the North Pump Station, which would feed Erickson, or Creek, North Canyon, South Canyon, was designed based on not just Erickson demand, but the demand of the full area. So of course we're going to end up with large infrastructure. Again, there's opportunities to parse this out and look at different scenarios. As such, staff are recommending a bit of a cautious approach moving forward. Leveraging the information that we've got from the associated engineering report, but also looking at the other side of things from an agriculture and economics perspective. The cost of doing nothing, I think, is high in this case, but we also have to get a better understanding of what producers want and what the impacts are of providing a more reliable supply of water to the valley and how that might impact growers and producers. The report also ties in with ongoing RDCK initiatives. The ongoing Erickson Universal Metering Plan, which is going to provide staff and producers and residential owners very valuable information on water use. Things like identifying leakage, being able to identify demands for our different customer classes, putting data in the hands of farmers and producers so that they have a better idea and handle on their water usage, and of course that low-hanging fruit of flagging leaks, major leaks early on, which has been our experience when we've rolled out water metering and other systems like Balfour. Also, again, tied this work, the ongoing work, into that Goat River watershed sustainability work that is ongoing. There's clearly a nexus there. Our work is looking at kind of a more adaptation and response to climate change and drought. The Goat River watershed group takes a holistic approach to that and opens that line of communication, gets better understanding of the needs of the different stakeholders, including the province. Like I said, I'm providing a little bit of new information to you. Not an agricultural economist myself, so pulling some publicly available information from the latest Census of Agriculture. I'm just kind of highlighting the importance and the growth of farming, both within the regional district as a whole, but of course focused on the Creston Valley area, which is really the main agricultural area in the RDCK. Mentioned as well that looked at some available hydrologic data from Arrow Creek, really looking at how our water withdrawals from Arrow treatment plant impact that creek. Over an annual basis, it's a very minimal withdrawal, in the single-digit percentage. But of course, that's doesn't tell the whole story. Our demands are competing with flows in Arrow Creek. We require the most water when Arrow Creek has the least water. And you'll see from that report that that can bump up to a 40% of withdrawal of the creek. Yeah. We don't have environmental flow needs set for Arrow Creek. It's rare. There's only a few creeks in the province, to my knowledge, that actually have an environmental flow needs assessment. But we do have an understanding that taking a large amount of water out of drought in the low flow and drought impacted system obviously has impacts, and those impacts are not entirely clear as we move forward. And climate change as we have more drought. So kind of a key point in the report is focusing on what items are required to be completed to provide the board with more information to better make decisions and understand how and if this project should be advanced and how that should roll out. So what I put in there is recommendation to direct staff to develop a scope of work, a detailed scope of work for we'll call it a bit of a grant-ready application package for funding opportunities that may provide a good match to the work that we're doing. This work is beyond the scope of what staff can do in-house. We can certainly do quite a bit. I think we can do a good job of scoping a study and being very ready and competitive for future funding opportunities. Also, of course, put in some of the risks that we have with A, doing nothing, and B, moving forward with this. With that, any questions?
Dr. Vandenberg?
Thank you for coming and visiting with us today. So, yes, this is first of all, I'm going to take pleasure in reading the report. I have not had a chance to go through it, and I'm not quite sure how it relates to our water sustainability planning opportunities, how it's going to make the connection, because I think it does. So I will look forward to that. I see some interesting phrases in here, business case analysis. I've heard economic analysis. I think that those are wise to start discussing those type of things. It may be premature to develop a scope of work that focuses on grant funding until we understand this is really a management of an entire area, not just including Arrow and Goat and Duck and Kootenai River. It's all that packaged into one. There's a number of factors that are important in this because it's the future of how this valley is going to sustain itself. And it's not all about just changing climate. That's just one piece of it. But I see that it's repeated a number of times. So there's an opportunity to massage what this is going to do, and the work that we're doing in the working group with water sustainability. I will always have this in mind as well because it's an integral portion, a piece to it. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. I guess one of the reasons why I wanted this brought forward is that I didn't want it to be kind of put over to an area with the staff that we need funding. It's not that. It is a piece of information that is entirely necessary to understand where our water challenges are for the valley for the future. and what this valley is gonna look like in the future because of that. Water is a huge, huge thing. So I'll leave it at that.
Director Cuny.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, this is, a scary figure. It's a huge project. But really, it's not that reflective of what it could cost. We've got infrastructure all in place already. This is a figure that's talking about building everything new. And we've got water systems, water services in place, North Canyon, South Canyon, Erickson, that is building a reserve, that is building reserve funds now. For a place to upgrade, to modernize distribution lines, etc. So I don't think that really reflects what work needs to take place to utilize the Kootenai River, to add to the water source we have for the valley. It's and North Canyon's pumping away there. They've got great source, great reservoir, great treatment plant. They're not they still have an old distribution line, but they're building reserves to do that themselves. So it's interesting that this is the way we're approaching it. And I guess I just want to say that, I think we're already modernizing what we have in place. And yes, we would like to have a designated irrigation system for the farms. It's going to be expensive. Yeah, so it doesn't really scare me where we're going with this. Just more realistic numbers might help get started and look for funding.
Yeah, thanks through the chair. There's a lot of convergence of issues and projects here. So I think through the chair, Chris, you said a bit of a long report. It's exactly the right length. There's detail on there a little beyond what the consultant gave us before, which is what we need. One picture says more than 1,000 words, especially for people who hate looking at variable graphs and this and that statistical stuff. I showed it to you. I turned my camera off for a minute so I don't give people a headache if I spin my computer. That's this picture, arrow flows. And I think his job one, and Paris Marshall Smith is in the room, which is great. We should do a poster of this, a big poster, put one in this building, maybe two, put one in our office, regional office. Maybe town hall should have a picture of this. Because we don't have a lot of water. We are near the ceiling. That's before other environmental considerations may reallocate some of what we've taken for granted. Our low flow is so close to the demand today on Arrow. That's the scary part. And that ceiling could come and crush down a little bit, could get lower. So we won't have growth, we'll have restriction. And we can't take for granted our aquifers any longer, and we can't take for granted the wells. And my understanding is a lot of the current wells aren't even approved or licensed. We could see worse than a cap on productivity. We could see the ceiling go down to the point where we go backwards. So seriously, job one, that should be a big poster, nothing else, just the peak arrow flows and the flat line almost, the low flow, and what we're pulling out of it today. And everybody who talks about water wants to say, well, there's lots of water. It rains so much I can barely plant my garden until whatever. There's not a lot of water purposes that we're expecting we're going to have it. So I appreciate the additional information. It's sort of that agricultural demand per acre and stuff like that. We're still lacking what we talked about. When did we hold AKBLG here in Creston? 9 years ago, 10 years ago. West Graham was on council. I worked on the preparation for that. We invited an interesting dude, Kent, from Polytechnic down in Kwantlen there, Kwantlen Polytechnic. He's retired. That's how long it's been. He was gonna do a freebie, and that's what we need as part of this next step, not to frame something for waiting for grants and a consultant. Go back to them. I think Paris had made some outreach already. We need to know, what can you do with more water given the land base we have? None of the farmers really maybe have the time to start researching. Some of them tore out this crop, that crop, replanted this, now we see shifting landscapes. But to understand, given the acres of land, the true economic value, the return on whatever investment the public sector may make, is not understood. I think that's part of our purpose. It's one thing to throw the $200 million, wow, that's too much, let's just walk away. But if you show, what do we make per year, the 30, whatever, $40 million agricultural investment and economic activity, and then what if that doubled? You know, if it doubled every year, all of a sudden $100 million isn't that much. So I would like to see us right in sort of the internal, and then the external, and then on the external, what can we get for free, just for asking? Because institutions said this is what they do. Even cattle. This came up last night, and it came up to me in Trail a few months ago with the director for the rural area from Grand Forks, beyond Grand Forks, all the way up to Big White. They're not finishing their cattle. They can't get enough feed. Price of feed is so high that the people who grow through that part of Kootenay boundary are selling into the Okanagan for people who have more money. So the people in Sharon Gibbs's area can't finish their cattle, so they're all going to Alberta to be finished. And I get a sense from last night's conversation that happens here too. What if we could grow double the feed or triple? I mean, the flats have a wonderful advantage of bottom moisture, but we got all this other land. Just that alone, just feed for animals. What difference would that make? And then beyond that, one other crop. So I really like this. I'd like to see and I ranted, of course, because this has come up with Chernow and Water Services Community. When do we put this to the Water Services Community as for information? What can we do internally? Because you are doing lots to conserve water, find the leaks, plan for the future upgrades. What do we need a consultant for that we're gonna have to hire? And what freebies can we get now for early input data? Before, we're going to the farmers all the time under this water governance, but I'd rather staff be able to look back to them with a little more real hard economic potential. Where's the money at? That's what the RCMP do when they want to find the path to the truth. Where's the money? Follow the money. So good report. If this is enough to go on this recommendation, that's fine. On the understanding that there's the agricultural economic benefits, to me, is the next most important step to show that tens of millions of additional revenue per year to get people to even pay attention to this. Because if you don't show them a benefit, you just show them a cost, you won't have any traction.
So I see a recommendation before us, and I can't help but ask them first. We have a water sustainability study, which is significant for our valley. We have an alternate water supply initiative, but in neither of them, I see the idea that we should perhaps be considering a water storage system to flatten out those lines that Gary has showed us. And if we had a place where we had a strategic reservoir that could perhaps tap into the infrastructure easier than pumping water from somewhere else. I'm not sure if that's been considered in this, and I've sat in on a lot of different meetings about water sustainability. We all know that peak demand for orchards is at a time where it diminishes our water quite a bit. If we have a system where we can store water to flatten out those peak times, with the abundance of prime land here, with the abundance of running water, I just don't see that in any of these studies, and I wonder why not? Because it may be part of a solution other than pumps and pipes and all new infrastructure. If we can have it in place that strategically taps into the existing infrastructure, it does meet the demand. And so a lot of communities have reservoirs. We don't. And I think that should be part of the consideration here. I'm not an engineer or hydrologist, but we know when we need water the most, and we know when water is at its lowest levels in streams, and there's a way to actually store water for that. So I don't know if we can throw that into this recommendation, but I do want that to be considered, because I think that it hasn't been looked at enough. Maybe will be if we decide that will help supplement this. So I just wanted to say that, but the recommendation that for us here, I guess the next question is, are we in support of that? I guess.
On storage, we had an interesting speaker, and I can't remember who the heck it was, about wetland and slowing down the natural runoff cycle and infiltration, capturing more in the aquifers, because water takes a couple of paths. If the ground's frozen, it gets really hot, really warm in February, and Uli's got his hand up as well, versus mechanisms to help with wetlands and slow down that surface runoff, let it percolate and recharge. Trouble is, to me, since we're talking a month or weeks, our problem becomes, it's not a problem in July, it's a problem in September or October. And if you're looking at fruit crop productivity, if you can't water in the early dormant stage, late fall, you reduce your productivity the next year. This is the economic thing that ties with the storage. Slowing the runoff down may help for the crop of the year, unless it's a hard reservoir instead of a soft wetland storage. It's not going to help in the fall. But I agree, the storage question, and that's probably have to hire somebody to do that. But that's something we kind of danced around.
Uli, you've got your hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you. You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So I get the impression we may have to go back to the study that we did and presented before, because I feel what I heard today was things like the costing is too high. We have already systems in North Canyon. Why don't we address storage? Most, if not all of these items were addressed in the study, and maybe we didn't do a good enough job in presenting it. The dimensions we are talking about, volume required, and the need to separate potable from non-potable water with new lines are the essential pieces that make this a massive undertaking. When you talk storage, just look at the line sizes. I think Chris may have identified it in the report here. The line sizes we are talking about are required just for the first phase, or phase 1 and 3 combined, is 750 millimeter lines. The lines that you have in a water system currently, in most water systems, including North Canyon, the biggest are probably 150 millimeters. So you have a 750 millimeter line pumping at full capacity, and that's the water you would then have to store. You're talking about a lake that needs to be in an area up the hill in order to take advantage of gravity. Otherwise, you haven't gained anything, because Kootenay River has year-round enough water. The issue is needing to pump that quantity when it is needed in the decisive, typically 2 months, call it 2 to 4 months, when the main consumption is happening. We're talking huge quantities. We're talking water untreated, so not as potable water, that needs to be clearly separated from the potable water systems that are existing. You can't reuse old lines, if that's the thought, because of pressure issues, pipe deterioration, pipe size, all of these things. You have regulatory requirements. These pipes need to be separated using current existing legislation horizontally 3 meters from where existing potable water lines are. Meaning, if you take an example like Erickson Road, you're in the middle of Erickson Road, you're taking the whole pavement out and replacing the pavement in order to put that line in. So maybe we haven't done a good enough job in explaining the first feasibility studies that we did, which are relatively high level. Certainly, there is a 40% contingency built in because we know so little. But maybe we need to first eliminate some misunderstandings why the system is as big as it is designed and what the actual cost is. Number two, and Director Jackman pointed it out, the essential piece is doing the business case analysis, and Chris's recommendation has that right up top in the list of items that we would have to study. $100 million, or that's just phase one, sounds like a excessive amount and something we never get a payback. But when we look at the business size of agriculture, including growth in the valley, all of a sudden it may be there. But this requires a thorough look at what is the economic benefit created by agriculture, what are the already existing investments in that valley, and as part of that, as well as stakeholder discussions, what is financially sustainable. I mean, we heard for 15 years that what we are charging the farmers is non-sustainable. I believe when you took a bit more differentiated picture that these statements will be qualified quite differently. And we will see this as well when we start metering, have better data, can refine our numbers, can define line sizes, can define what can Arrow Creek do without a system like that. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. The key is that we need to, need the seed money to do a study like that, to do the business case analysis, including the other items that Chris has identified. We have no service attached. This is really already fringe of what a services as it is defined right now can do for you, because we are 95% paid by water users throughout the region. If you see, and I apologize for that, but this large report came together last minute because it is something that Chris really had to squeeze into his existing workload to provide that to this group. And we will have further discussions at Water Service Committee level too. But I think it is important to understand that we are, as we are set up right now, not the right group to address that unless we find solutions to the funding and potentially resourcing the department accordingly. So that's part of the discussion we need to have.
We have 5 points in this recommendation. And I would ask anybody that can answer this to answer it. Are those 5 points enough to give us what we need? Because you just mentioned something that
Has anyone else lost sound?
I did.
Yes, I did too.
I did as well, and video. I can't
Yeah.
see that room anymore.
Me too.
I will message Craig and just let him know.
Thank you.
yeah, it looks like Craig's aware.
The room picture is back.
Uli, I don't know if you saw it in the chat, but it looks like they're doing a 5-minute recess, and I don't know if that's due to technical issues or because I can see Kelly and Arnold aren't in the room right now.
I think they just don't want to talk to us.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
Uli.
no, I saw it. Thanks. Yeah.
Okay.
They do hear you, Uli.
uh, no harm done. I haven't said anything wrong yet.
Okay, so where we left off was, you had made the recommendation, Director Jackman.
Sure.
And, I think if we agree to it, move that forward. Is there anything else anybody wanted to say about it before we do that? Go ahead, Dr. Vandenberg.
Well, I'm relying on Director Jackman's ability to go through this. I have not, because it came to us late yesterday. I have not been able to go through this. So my hesitancy is not understanding what it is we're asking staff to do. And so I will have to rely on Director Jackman in this recommendation. I suppose that what the scope of a business case and analysis would look like is good work. And maybe moving that needle forward now. So I guess I could step back and say that, yes, I don't understand the full implications of what staff is committing to here. We have talked about a larger picture. And so I guess that's my hesitancy in agreeing to this.
I think Chair Watson might say exactly what I'm going to say. Staff isn't committing to do the work. They're going to give us a work plan and then ask us, how the heck are we going to fund this? Because we have to have a service to tag this to. So we'll come back with more detail. And Crystal have had a little more time to evolve that detail. But staff isn't committed to doing all this work because we got to decide how. And then how that impacts everybody else's work plan and whether it goes to water services, which I think it should.
Chair Watson, you have your hand raised, so go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. It was the last of Director Jackman's note that I wanted to make was that if this is just direction to bring a work plan forward. So I don't think the time, like what you're doing today is going to bring you the information you would like. However, and also you could refer to water services where I know it's already being asked to be on the agenda and it might be more fulsome discussion with the rest of water services there. So your call, an option, but I think you should define in the motion where that work plan comes back. Because it's a bit, and it's great that Creston Valley is talking about it because you do have this water sustainability plan work at the same time. So there's a direct connection and at the same time, water services needs to be in the loop. So don't know how you figure that one out, but they should be at water services primarily.
Director Cuny.
Yes, and just to Lisa, I hear what you say, Ellie, about maybe my misunderstanding of the lines, whatnot. But I struggle with the duplicating the lines for a DIL and a potable water system. I think the biggest cost is in twinning that line. And putting in two different complete systems at $600 a meter of main line. And perhaps it's cheaper with just a singular distribution line and it being treated completely for both ag and because the cost of twinning everything is what's putting the figure so high. Anyway. Just wanted to say that. I see my hand is up to
Getting back to the recommendation. Okay, go ahead, Lee. Your hand up.
Yeah, just two things. The first one was in regards to Wallace Committee. We are just in the process of canceling our next meeting because we had no critical items for decision making for the committee, and this report came together last minute and we felt it wasn't enough for putting an agenda together. So if you refer it to Water Service Committee, it will be the meeting in beginning of August that you would refer it to. In regards to Director Turney's comments, yes, so the single line treated water is really the Arrow Creek approach that we currently have in place. This may be an option or would be an option if we could get away with well water in proximity to the Kootenay River and chlorination only. Then it is an option. As soon as you introduce further treatment like UV or filtration or and filtration, the cost will skyrocket for the volumes of that water, and having a secondary plant supplying other areas. And in fact, we have currently 2 or 3 different landing points for the different phases there. So that was looked at. Maybe Chris wants to speak to that option a little bit more. But it was definitely considered as one of the options to have a singular distribution system, less distribution system cost, but the cost switches over to treatment.
Yeah, through the chair, I confirm what Uli described to you. I can certainly bring some more detailed information back, I guess, the Water Services Committee on some of the infrastructure related questions that have come up, including, potential reservoir. The AE team did look at a high level at options like that. But can certainly kind of vet that and push out some valuable information to you in a little more detail.
The risk is, again, I appreciate you coming to us and saying, here's what we can do going forward. Very much so. But this fragmented, we'll answer this question, answer that question. I'm more interested in what the business case framework is going to look like. That is where it's going to generate conversation. I would rather your time be put towards the creation of that than just simply. And so the location of where this needs to be, I mean, certainly here in Valley Services, we have a lot more freer ability to discuss these things. And Water Services, it's good to have the input from others, but it still comes back to our backyard. So for me, the business case approach, the analysis, the economic analysis, that's the framework I would like to see. That's really what's going to allow us to move forward and how to. So that's my comment on that.
On the motion, so we're going to add and bring back to Creston Valley Services Committee, and if reasonable, that would be July.
So just add that to this recommendation or
Yeah,
Water
and then
Services
staff report back to the Creston Valley Services Committee with both scope, budget, implementation considerations. And that's where we'll see the beginning of Director Vandenberg's questions. Scope, money.
And to be fair, is that appropriate timing?
Through the chair to come back with the work that I've put in the recommendation, yes.
Okay.
Lee, go ahead before we finish.
Yeah, so if I just want to make sure I understand the resolution you're making, you're still making a recommendation to the board to direct us to do this work and then staff to bring it back to your group. Is that what I'm understanding the resolution would be?
I suppose it is.
That might
Does it
be
have to be-
necessary. Chair Watson could
Does that
correct
go to the
us.
board? Does that go to the board?
It will have to go to,
Service.
it will have to go to the board. It is
Yeah.
enough work that it requires board authorization for it. It's not just a minor action item. So the board needs to direct staff to do this work.
Right.
Okay. So we would do that and then that would come back here. Okay. As you suggested, we'll go with the recommendation and then through board, have it come back here for our information.
Chair Watson had thumbs up there. So there we go.
Okay, so that's what we'll do then.
All in favor?
All in favor of the recommendation?
There's a procedure for that.
And thanks for that, Chris. I guess we can move on now. We're still talking about water. Let's go to the Oak River Water Sustainability Plan.
As always, I have just a couple of slides, so I'll just get that set up. Okay, just put this one up to follow along.
There we go.
There we are. Okay. So this is quite a quick update. Just we're moving into a month where there's quite a few pieces coming to fruition. So I just wanted to get an opportunity to kind of go over this, which committee members are have been briefed on this, but for those who haven't been in these conversations, we are moving into our first collective conversations working group. So that's with Yakanuki, with the province and RDCK staff, and Kanji Zampato, the water policy advisor from Walrus, is here as well, just to acknowledge that she's in the room. This first initial meeting is actually taking place today, this afternoon. It's going to be an introductory meeting where we'll get to know each other, go over the terms of reference for the working group, as well as review the work plan and establish the next steps for the working group. And these updates for this meeting will be provided to everyone at this table, elected officials, at our June meeting, and we'll also be setting the stage for our following meeting, which will be focused on our shared values. We're calling it the science meeting. So we will be able to also bring in some experts, hydrologists, to talk about the Goat watershed, what we know. So that following meeting will be an update, what we're talking about today, but then going further and understanding from the elected officials what we want to bring to the following meeting with the working group, and come to a shared understanding there, just to make sure that the electeds are informed and able to participate fully in the working group session, even though they won't be in the room. As well, we have our What We Heard report has been drafted, and that'll be presented at the next RDCK board meeting to get a chance to take a look at all of the results of the engagement. So the survey, the open houses, the producer engagement, and some of the recommendations for engagement that are coming out of that, which will inform our phase 2 or the next round of engagement, which is going to go a bit deeper. We'll have a more comprehensive survey that's going to talk about our desired state, get an idea where people are at, what they would like to see as a sustainable Goat River watershed, and also talk about solutions. This will be coupled with in-person events like our drop-in sessions that we'll be hosting at CDCC and the library, and looking at a bunch of different options, working with local community groups to better access the community through those trusted networks. So that's something that we'll be launching later this month. We also, with the technical aspect, with the isotopic modeling work, request for proposals is being developed that will allow that work to move forward by hiring, a technical contractor. In addition to hiring the person to do the study and do the work, will also be a project team developed that will help guide that work and provide that technical expertise while the contractor is carrying out the research and the reporting, and that's a 2-year process. So there's lots of really exciting milestones happening this month, and just wanted to lay those out for the community today, and welcome any questions.
Dr. Vandenberg.
Thank you, Camille. So I don't mind the acceleration that that seems to be exploding on us here. And I don't mind it at all, actually. But I want to clarify that the terms of reference in the work plan was delivered to us in camera just recently. We have not had a chance to walk that through, talk that through, explore that. And it sounds like you're going to be introducing it. Is it an assumption that we've accepted that's an accepted terms of reference and work plan? Because the June 11th is the opportunity that I see for us to really understand what the impact of that is, and our opportunity to input into it as well, because we've had no opportunity to input into it. So that would be my question: is what is the messaging today? And I'm letting you know that June 11th I'm really looking forward to that, so we really can dig into what the elements of the terms of reference in the work plan really means.
Yeah, yeah, through the chair. So, for today's meeting, the working group is going to be sort of picking through like a draft terms of reference. And then this is going to be something in our full day together at our June 11th meeting where we can review that and go through it and have that opportunity for comment and coming to a shared understanding or any adjustments that would potentially need to be made. And then we can, it's a living piece of work that I think is still.
Shared understanding is premature.
Mhm.
Okay, we have not had direct input yet.
Mhm. Yeah.
This will come and sit down first.
Thank
And go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. The intent of bringing it to the board in camera was an opportunity for the board to engage with it. I also did invite the comments following that if there were comments that electeds could, we received comments from Director Jackman, and I think we also received comments from you. We are inviting comments. As I mentioned at the board, so we didn't want to bring it to the public at the time because we haven't had a chance as the working group to actually discuss it. We've been receiving comments from all the members of the working group to work on it. There will be another draft version drafted, and that's coming to the next board meeting. So there will be an opportunity for the board again to consider it. At that time, it will be a public document.
So further, yes, I'm working on comments, and it's a big thing, but it takes time. We're busy. We're being pulled in all directions, so we can only put so much time into these things. So I'm letting you know that I'm putting some serious brain power, whatever that may be, into this as part of your invitation for comments. But the opportunity to discuss it as a group has value, and so that's why I was looking forward to June 11th. When we could explore that as a group too. So I just don't want this thing rushed through without really understanding us representing our constituents in this area, the ability to speak freely, if you will.
Director Jackman.
Yeah, so thanks for the update to the chair. Look forward to June 11th. And I have I guess a draft agenda, I would say, for 6 hours, right? And what I'm wondering is, we need 6 hours, yes, I'm looking for staff for you guys to update this agenda. I would rather see everything possible in advance as just information for me to read, instead of like, whoa, sit down, we're in a classroom, we're gonna tell you what's wrong with this. If it's something I can read, something historical, information, data, just please want that in advance. And then we get down to more of the discussion about what's next, as opposed to the data, the science, stuff like that. That hopefully will be 20 minutes out of 6 hours. It won't be, you will never educate those of us who aren't familiar with the systems in 20 minutes, in a day, you won't educate us. So I'm actually challenged to, do we need 6 hours? Or do we need a couple to 3 hours twice? That kind of thing. And what can we see in advance? Because June 11th is really soon, and in between then and now, aside from being out of the area, FCM and a bunch of other stuff, I'd rather read as much as I can in the next few days, whatever's available.
Thank you, through the chair. Yes, indeed. And as Director Vandenberg mentioned, it is a very quick process. And so we're developing the materials as quickly as possible to get them to you in a good time so that you can have good time to engage. I'm hearing two things. One is to have materials ahead of time, but also the desire to also be able to discuss it as a group. So we're trying to find the balance between both of those and the needs of the whole. At this point, we just wanted to have a placeholder in your schedules, because even just finding a collective time that everyone is available is a challenge. So wanting to have that placeholder, we have an invitation out to 4 different scientists to bring in a diversity of perspective of science, because that was also a request by this group, not just have a scientist. And so we're bringing in a diversity of perspectives of science to bring in that full understanding of the watershed, so that we start to create a baseline of understanding to have those conversations around the values. And that's really the key place where your engagement will be critical, and that relationship to elected, to residents. Is what are the values that are defining this work? What are we working towards as desired state? And so not that it's going to be a final state. None of this is a final piece. We're a working group. We're defining the issues. We're not defining what we are doing as tripartite group. We're just exploring at this point. So it's really, as we explore together, how do we do that in the best way possible?
Before you go, Chair Watson is, and go ahead, Chair Watson.
Thank you. Oh, I just flipped. Sorry. I just wanted to verify with the specifics that the input that was provided at our meeting last week, Paris, that has been integrated into what you'll present to the working group this afternoon?
Yes, correct. Thank you. Through the chair.
Thank you.
Okay, you're right.
Just a question on clarity. So when we talk about the, are we talking specifically about the Goat River watershed and not the other watersheds that are prominent in this valley? Because in the beginning, when we were engaging with the residents, our 6 meetings, that conversation was a border, like that suggested West Creston, for example. They felt they had the need to input in some capacity, although it was a lot of aquifer type questions. But the idea is that I think what the residents were left with was water in Creston Valley. And are we narrowing that scope specifically to Goat River? So I can direct my questions, my sharing thoughts to you on that. I need to be, so it doesn't include the duck, it doesn't include the arrow, which are significant, doesn't include the Kootenai River. Is that correct?
So can we also bring up the study area that is defined? So the Goat River watershed is broader than just the Goat River. It's the whole drainage system that the Goat River is a part of. So it's the Goat River, it's the Arrow Creek, it's Duck Creek. That's the whole drainage system of the Goat River watershed. What we've done for the study area is also extend it down to the border between Canada and the States to include the 2 aquifers in Canyon and Lister. So we're also including groundwater in this study area as well. It doesn't extend over to West Creston. We included West Creston in the engagement, and that perhaps was a point of confusion. But you can see that it draws a line through the flats, but where essentially the low point comes. So when we start draining this way, as opposed to draining this way. And so, or actually it would be the high point, I guess. So draining into the Goat River watershed, as opposed to draining into the West Creston, into the aquifers on that side.
Thank you for that clarification. That's important to me to understand that. The title, which has changed for the 3rd time now, is now referred to as the Goat River. It was water governance to begin with back in 2024, then it moved to water sustainability plan, and now it's moved to goat. Goat then is misleading because it suggests just the goat. This is actually a broader conversation.
We've actually been, through the chair, our intent has been to be very consistent with the language. So we do have a water governance initiative, watershed governance initiative, and that's the whole of the regional district. So that includes all our work that we do around watershed governance. The Goat River watershed water sustainability plan has been the consistent title for the entire thing because we wanted to avoid confusion. So it's the Goat River watershed water sustainability planning piece. And we've been very explicit about not being a plan because that's something that we would be speaking specifically to all of us about, and we're not working towards a plan at this point. We're planning. And so again, all this is these are big pieces that we recognize that there has been confusion, and we've tried very hard to be very consistent.
Doesn't take much to confuse me.
Well, and likewise, I mean, these are big pieces. Thank you.
Historically, before there was a major plumbing project on the flats, Duck River did flow into the Goat River.
Exactly.
So it is still considered part of the watershed. But the way the Goat River was altered, it no longer flows into the Goat River, but historically it's part of the Goat River watershed.
Need the old maps, go ask Tammy at the museum. The goat's been rechanneled.
More research.
Please.
That's history, that's not research.
History back there.
Anything else we need on this? So we'll look forward to June 11th, and you will provide us as much information as you can beforehand.
And we will also refine the agenda so that we can be respectful of your time. Thank you very much for holding that place for now.
Yeah, and as you said, it's hard to arrange time to do all these things, so when we have a time, we've agreed to it, gotta make the rest of it.
Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you. So anything on our action item list?
Well, Chair, we have an old business item that was referred to, address that now.
Yes.
Referred item.
Yep.
So I got to that. So, and that was the item to raise some issues, I guess, but to me, it's straightforward because we don't have. This is around the grant to the contribution to the airport service, S240. So the recommendation is referred, which I feel is appropriate because we don't have any defined guidelines for this arm's length grant. That I will move the referred item that the board directs staff to amend the 2026-2030 financial plan for S240 Airport Town of Creston and C defined aid. Reduce the account grants expense and increase the account contribution to reserve as for the rest of that recommendation. So it's a bookkeeping exercise.
Did you want to repeat that for clarity?
Yeah, okay, so this is the board direct staff to amend the 2026-2030 financial plan. That's the S240 Airport, Creston A, Creston B, C, and defined aid. So that we increase the contribution to reserve under the regional district by 45,876, 48,995 for 2027, etc. And the new reserve be set up within S240 to retain those funds, and that any expenditures from that reserve require Creston Valley Services Committee approval and a recommendation to the board. If it's seconded, I can refresh your memory on it. Second, if I can, Chair. So, and I know you were concerned, Chair DeBoon, about maybe my motives for this, but this is part of the huge increase in taxation under the airport service. And the mechanisms we have now to control how money is used are just arm's length. That if we increase taxation contribution to town, you and council can decide to spend that however you want. The intention of this very significant tax increase was to begin to build a reserve to leverage provincial grant funds for, if possible, a major provincial grant to extend the runway. I feel it's appropriate. That is a targeted initiative that the regional district hold that in a reserve because we can't move money around the same way town can. Once we give the money to town, you can decide at council, whoever your next council is in a few months, to do something else with that money. And the intention is that because of the amount of the taxation increase, the possible changes in governance and the overall master plan for that site, there's so many other moving parts. To me, it is most appropriate that we're already taxing everybody in the whole combined area that is for money, but that just be held in an RDCK reserve until we're ready to know that either we have the runway extension or some other project that we will then move that leveraging money into. So I didn't feel it was an offense against the town and trust, the word was used, trust. I feel it's just procedurally, that's the most appropriate way to show our taxpayers why we took so much more money out of the pocket. We already did. I received my tax notice. It's already coming out of people's pockets on July 2nd. This is time sensitive. If we don't do this for June board, then by default, the appropriate control on that money is lost.
And, I will speak against it and it has nothing to do with personalities or anything like that. These are contribution agreements. You want to deviate the way contribution agreements have been set up with the library, with all the other things. The RDCK doesn't hold a bunch of money. They give it to the agency that's actually running it. And this is a similar situation. The town of Creston owns a facility holds the liability in the facility. We've established a master plan that we want to follow. I think we would agree on what we need to do there. And so, because we as town staff are administering the entire airport with the society, to me, it just makes sense that we hold the funds. It also makes sense that we agree on how the money's spent. I have no problem with that. But I do think that because of how we administer it, we would prefer the money is held. When the grant is given, give us the whole grant. If you disagree with how the money's spent, we do have time to vocalize that. But I would assume that because we are agreeing that there are a bunch of infrastructure things we need to do. We also are looking at, in the information you got, how else we can raise more money internally rather than rely solely on the ratepayers. And so, again, I would prefer that the money is held with the people that are administering that, which is the town of Creston. And so, for that point, the reason I disagree with your motion, and I do it respectfully, but I just feel that, again, we can't transfer that to somebody else. If the RDCK said, hey, we'd like to take over the airport, with the agreement we have on the Crown Land Grant, we would have to sell it to you for the commercial value, where we got the land as a grant. So I don't think nobody wants to do that, but we are the holder of it. And as in other funding that the RDCK gives out, they give the funding. We will have a surface level agreement that says, you are funding this. This is the agreement that we are going to give back to you to say that this is why we're getting the funding. I feel that's adequate. I don't know if you do, but that's why I disagree with you.
If I might, we don't have a service level agreement yet. So there are no guardrails on what happens to that money once it's given over. This is not a deviation. I'll go back to Mayor Joe Snowpack when I was an alternate director, but sat at the board chair 21 years ago, that we taxed per cemetery, which provides money to 6 sites. And we needed to clarify how we were allocating money to the Creston site, and we held money. We held money on Goat River, on the Lower Goat Diking Association, until they could demonstrate what they were doing. We held money against from the Crawford Bay Cemetery Society until they could get their ducks in a row and identify how they're spending the money. Be more clear. We hold money when there's question marks around are we in the right place in agreement and how the money must be used as opposed to how it might be used. So it's not deviation whatsoever. We absolutely, as a regional district, can tax for purposes, but then allocate the money out, not as one shot. We can allocate the money out as required, or as it makes sense, or as agreements are firmed up. This is a multi-year large commitment, huge tax increase that next year may not make sense, depending on what we hear from the province, depending on what we hear from the longer term governance options. So holding it in the regional district is not a risk to the town, and it's not a deviation. It is simply a fact that once money is given to an independent municipality, you don't have to spend it the way we think may happen. And so this is, to me, I have a role to look after the interests of my rural electoral taxpayers, as to these two gentlemen. And I think this is just putting a point on. We're not going to discuss some of the reports, but I have 6 different tabs open here. That there's language along the lines of town council will determine a level of service and then tell us the required funding. That's not how it works. You're going to determine a level of service and then request funding. You're not going to tell us what's required. That's not how it works, because we're not co-owners, we're not co-managers, which you just expressed. The same, you can determine a level of service for the cemetery but then you don't tell us what funding. The library can identify their desired level of service in terms of days and hours, but they don't tell us what funding is required, they request. So this is a situation that until you've determined your level of service, master plan implementation, and whether or not you have agreements with the province for major funding, that you don't tell us what funding is required. We'll hold the money in good faith we've taken out of people's pockets as of July 2nd. For those who prepaid like I have at the tax account for the credit union. We'll hold that in good faith, but you request the money once we have clarity. You don't tell us what's required. And so I feel this is a very good point to make as to how in a business-like relationship between two entities with very different spending rules of how we keep the guardrails on and keep the lines clear. And so all of us have new board and council members, and maybe we have a gift from the province, which I don't hold a lot of hope for a few years. But this is an appropriate step, I believe. I thought it was going to happen during our approval of the increased requisition months ago, and apparently my thoughts were misunderstood. But I feel this is appropriate, and I think it's a understanding that's got to go a little more deeper into all of our minds in council. Difference between a required funding and a requested funding. So I stand by this as being appropriate, not just for this service, but a flag that this is how we need to look at these, and not take the assumption that rural residents will fund whatever comes to them. Can't be the case.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a matter of whatever's coming to them. I think that we are guided by a master plan, and we will also be guided by a service level agreement. And I think those will certainly help decide that forward.
We speak of the master plan. The master plan is this, here's what could possibly happen. But we know that not all elements of that master plan will in fact come to fruition. What I'm aware of is the runway extension is an opportunity for funding to get it extended to benefit the airport. But I'm not clear as to what the plan is. What is it exactly that we're doing, and why are we doing it? What is the role of society in all this? That part of it I'm not real clear on. Maybe that's me, but I don't think we've really discussed what that plan would be. And so I guess I'm actually offering a little bit of an interlude into this conversation to regather some thoughts, that sort of thing. But I am going to state that, or I suggest that, yes, the master plan is there, but that doesn't mean that's just a inspiration. That is what we could possibly be. That a lot of those, and I'll repeat again, a lot of those elements will not come to fruition because of the changing landscape, that things change. But take one of those elements and work that plan through makes a lot more sense to me. And I'm not real clear what that plan is going to produce, the return of investment for that. And I would like to know.
I think we have prioritized part of the plans, obviously, because we do support the need for an extended runway with proper turnarounds at each end. We've agreed to that. And I think that was the reason that we implemented this extra fund. And so I think we've already agreed to that part of it.
Well, that was proposed. It certainly was, but we did not really explore what is the actual benefit to it. Like, no, I'll just leave it at that. We did, but we did it. So let's leave it at that.
All I can do is put it to vote here because that's the democratic process. And so
yes,
that's what I'll do. And I value your input. Denise, go ahead.
Just to clarify, Director Vandenberg, you're talking about the plan of the extensions. You're unclear of the why the need of the extensions. Is that what you're?
Yeah, more specifically, the return on investment.
So
what are we going to get out of it when we come
what is happening right now is that I won't get the proper names because I don't have it in front of me, but the air ambulance are upgrading their airplanes. And so once that happens, which is going to be happening, it sounds like in the next year, they will not be able to land on the current airplane. So that is what how it will benefit our community, is that we will continue to get air ambulance into the airport.
So is that documented?
Yes, that was in the report.
What report? What
When the
Which
report
report?
that came of the reasoning of the extension of the.
Where is this report?
It came from, I believe I saw it here from the town of Creston. And so that is the reasoning for why the extension needs to happen, is because those planes are already and there was, I believe there was letters from air ambulance as well confirming that would be taking place, that they would no longer be choosing to land here. So that's the reason.
If I might, there's much more detail. So it's Carson Air,
Thank you.
contracted for, I believe, 14 aircraft. Their short-term plan that they're underway is to replace half the fleet in the near term with, and I don't have the model number, doesn't stick in my mind. Worked on airports for too long, maybe too many type of aircraft. The newer preferred aircraft, which is better for patient care, and we have these enhanced teams and the like, where you can actually, in an ambulance, you can begin treatment, let alone in an aircraft. So the size and nature of the aircraft makes a lot of sense from the air ambulance entire realm. Those aircraft can land in Creston most of the time. There's a risk though, because of temperature, lift, and length of runway. And this is not a problem just for Creston. You're going to see this in little places like Merrick, maybe 100 Mile, all over the place. We don't have 5,000 foot runways. So those aircraft, the hotter the weather, the temperature, the less dense the air. And so they get less lift. So they need more runway length to ensure that there's less risk that they will have to abort a takeoff. So it's not a can't land. It could put us into a competitive situation between whatever aircraft they retain in the fleet, and they're going to have some aircraft for sure at airports because you're not going to fix everything. That during that so many degree day in July or August or whatever, there may be a call for an air ambulance transportation, and that aircraft could also already be in Williams Lake, or I think Williams Lake's okay, but it'll be somewhere else because there's fewer of them that on the very hot days could do what they need to do. So then you might be in a situation, well, now we have to do ground transportation to a site where any of the fleet can take off from. So it's not a can't, it's not well quantified. On East Kootenay Hospital Board, we sat and had this conversation about what are the ramifications and implications, and that's because of Angel Air and their aircraft and their aspirations to change what they're doing. So there are questions to be answered. It's not a yes or no, but we will find ourselves in competition a few days a year where the aircraft that can use this are and where people might have to move by ground. And that's fine. That'll work itself out. All I'm recommending is that we use the appropriate mechanism, that the funding is in a spot that when that issue is ready to be resolved, the funding will be released, as opposed to the arm's length relationship we have now with no guardrails, no parameters, no level of service, no fixed understanding of what has to change when, the real risks to service, until those are in place. And I think that's the model we should always follow. If we're a little more business-like. So there's a lot more to be investigated on that. And I'm hoping the hospital districts will push that point, because I don't want the province to contract for the entire fleet of aircraft where every airport with very hot summer weather is at risk. That would be a really bad mistake on the province's behalf. And it's their contract.
Councilor Dumas.
Yeah, thank you. About the can't or won't, I do know there was there was a letter from Casera. Thank you for helping me with that. The other thing I just would like the community to take in consideration is that the town
has full liability of the airport. And so if the town has to rely on another, of the RDCK to make the decisions of when that money can be released, that's a liability to the town. So that's all that I'll have to say about that. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate the comment, but I don't know that based on what Director Jackman's saying, I don't see any further exposure on that liability. It's just a request and deliverance of that request. I don't see the further liability on that. Yes, you do own land, but in terms of transferring money, to say that that's a liability if you don't hold it, I would have to disagree.
To clarify, I'm saying that having the RDCK and another committee making that decision, needing to wait to be able to spend that money, town has the liability. So I don't know how else to explain that, but that's what it affects the town's liability to have another entity making the decision on behalf of something that we're fully left with. The town's fully left. It's a risk for us.
So, eventually I have to put this to vote, which is, I'm happy to do so, but there are some comments here. If we have an agreed upon service level agreement, would that change your mind?
To me, thanks, Chair. Okay, so this is a little bit of a process thing for me. So I'm gonna give another example. In our fire services contract, Window Lake Fire Service. If you read the language, it was an experiment almost, like, let's do better. And we did. Town is doing better, managing and training all the people who provide fire and first responder service way better. But we left some kind of awkward pieces in there, like this reserve allowance for alternative water supply. And we're gonna fix it, I hope.
We just
in a week or two, I hope we're gonna fix
had
that.
the motion at the last meeting, Tuesday, that money was that already skipped.
But again, that's an example of where that's all it takes to just clarify that we're pulling money from people with a very specific purpose in mind. From regional district perspective, we're locked to that, but the town is not. So we're gonna fix that really quick. So yes, if we have more clarity in the agreement and town is willing to set up a dedicated reserve fund for a specific purpose, yeah, that's exactly what I'm aiming for, Chair, is that we are more business-like. We can do a financial plan amendment at any time. But failing this now to get to June board, by default, is gone for the year. So let's hold it, which we can do now. So finance has clear direction, they know what to do. And then it doesn't matter if it takes 6 months or 12 months to do all, because we have lots of pieces on the chessboard here, trying to think how can we do things better for all our collective residents. It doesn't matter how long that takes. Once we know how money is going to be held, moved, whatever, then we do that. But this is making us maybe a little more business-like. I don't want to keep going down examples, but there's so many examples I've observed over 18 years where it's too loose, not just with town whatsoever, with all these little groups. I've been saying we need all the cemetery people that in the room. We know all the people that grants for recreation under S242 in the room, the halls. We push money out in a way at arm's length. It could be more business-like. And this is just one situation. We'll get business-like language in place, then we can move the money at any time, any board meeting between now and whatever. Next budget cycle, this 5-year contribution will be changed by whoever happens to be sitting here. Nothing's in stone either way. It's just we're going to be more business-like.
Again, I will just put it to a vote.
Are we, sorry.
Yeah.
Are we able to, you're saying we can't defer this any farther because it's in the budget, we have to own it or. I just
Through the chair,
divisive.
finance, this doesn't need to be divisive. This is, finance will give us in June a list of all the financial grants that we are prepared to issue as soon as the province gives us the money that they collect on our behalf. They do that in June, so that in July, they don't have to come back and run around in circles with us. They can start cutting the checks. We don't know, Angie left the room, our only provincial rep. We don't know when they're gonna give us the money, a couple of weeks, a month. But then finance can get on with it. So all of our little systems that are waiting for money from us, all of our little calls, they'll start getting their checks. So it is the board meeting in a few weeks that will create that list. I want that list to have the full amount plus whatever inflation that Airport Society, we roll to town rolls to however they manage it. That's there, that'll be given. This additional amount will just be set aside until we're in a more business-like relationship. But all the other money will go ahead, but staff needs that in June. Because finance has a lot of checks to cut and a lot of organizations hungry for their annual funding. They want to see that money ASAP. And they don't want us to be holding that up in July. We will do that in June, in a few weeks. That's the time sensitivity, and CEO expressed that last time we joined this.
Anyway, I call the vote, as you know, I'm opposed to it. All in favor?
In favor?
And opposed? Where have been passed?
No, if then it fails, and we will move all the money to town. It's not a majority pass. It fails, you will get all the money. I will be looking very aggressively to see the town make a written commitment to us that this isn't just money for whatever. And we will be more businesslike on several fronts. And we can't just casually pass money the way we've been doing in the past. So I will put this on my agenda to make sure that all of our rural representatives understand what we're doing and why. And then it's not just because what'll happen in June, we will sanction you getting all the money regardless of how you spend it. That's the reality of life. You have that power as council to do what you want. And you've already shown us that power, say with the cemetery service. So we will have that conversation down the road.
Yeah, and fair enough. It is a worthy conversation. As you know, the town will be coming with service level agreement. And hopefully the service level agreement satisfies the concerns that you have. Because that's really the purpose of the service level agreement. We are doing it for every single service that we have. Hopefully that, again, alleviates concerns. Yeah. Okay.
So if I may, through the chair, we were on an items list.
Yeah,
and generate good conversation. There was one or two items that I've been struggling trying to figure out why they're not on here, but I can't, so I have to suggest I don't have anything further to comment on our action items list.
Good. That would mean that we are at the end of this meeting. We know that we have a visit at around 11:45 at public time by a group that wants to petition for replacement of sand. So I would suggest we begin a closed meeting, recess it if when they show up at 11:45, and reconvene and close because again, we have a lot of things to do today. I'd like to get this meeting done well before 1 p.m. so that I have time for my other meetings and Director Van as well, if that's okay.
Are they joining online, Chair?
I believe they're going to come because they're coming from the high school. They're coming at their lunch hour. So I would expect them to move. But in the meantime, we need to go to close recess perhaps when they show up.
So I'll move the meetings close to the public.
Sorry, what did you guys do with public?
He wants to defer. Sorry, Chair.
What's the question?
Public time is normally right now.
Yeah, public time is at 11:45. It's 11:40 now. So we could either recess till public time starts at 11:45 or go into closed recess from closed at 11:45, whatever your preference is. We could do the motions now to go into closed, just briefly recess.
Through the chair, are they coming at 11:45? That's in a couple minutes.
Yeah, I expect there will be. So,
because I think that if we lock them out,
yeah, okay.
they
will
be sticking around.
All right. Well, since it's close to public time, is there anybody online with a question? Hearing none, maybe we'll just wait briefly till 11:45 or slightly after, just to see if they have time to be here, so.
We're gonna 5 minute stretch.
Yeah, we can have a 5 minute stretch here.
I thought you guys were gonna give me a hard time because I brought a good company coffee and they didn't drink.
Good
half
for
a dozen
you.
of them. Well, I always tease somebody who brings in their own coffee, Chair.
Oh, okay.
I had to
How come
wait,
you didn't bring the one for me?
I had to wait for my daughter to start a car at the shop to pay her, so. So I had my $7 coffee.
I don't know what you guys think of your coffee. There you go. How am I supposed to know? You may have changed.
Can you guys mute on your end?
Come on in, you're just in time. I just, we have a couple of directors taking a break, and when they come back, then we'd be happy to listen.
Thank you.
Are you guys able to mute? There you go. Thanks.
We have a student petition about replacing the sand at the beach volleyball courts up at the rec center. And we got a total of 100 signatures of people who want this done. Yep. And we communicated with the Sill Industry Minerals in Edmonton to like figure out what the pricing would be. And it's $39.40 per metric ton of sand. And the volleyball court will take about 100 to 200 metric tons, depending on depth. There are suppliers in the lower mainland as well, and it might be worth like talking to them to see if would be like a cheaper option for delivery costs. And then do you want us to read out the actual petition?
Yeah, sure.
The undersigned high school students respectfully request that the regional district of Central Kootenay replace the current sand on the beach volleyball courts with proper volleyball grade sand. The existing sand is coarse, abrasive, and unsuitable for safe play. Players regularly experience cuts and scrapes while using the courts. These conditions negatively affect high school athletes and recreational users. Replacing the sand would improve safety, increase participation, and create a better recreational facility for students and the community. We ask the regional district of Central Kootenay to prioritize upgrading the courts with safe, appropriate beach volleyball sand. Thank you.
So you can present the petition up here to us.
Okay.
And I don't know if we have a response for you today.
Yeah.
But we appreciate you coming forward with this and your concerns because we don't want to see cuts and scrapes either. We want to see safe quality.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we do as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we appreciate you coming. We have a few questions here. Go ahead.
Okay.
Great.
Gentlemen, yeah, thanks for showing up today, because that is a part of the process that gets things moving, that moves the needle. I would want to know, how often are you using this facility to be able to know the effects of a different type of sound? Back in my day, we played on whatever was there. And, you know, we suffered our bumps and cuts, but those were things that we took home and bragged about afterwards, type of thing. But how often do you utilize the facility?
Well, usually I play like once or twice a week throughout the summer. You don't play obviously in the winter or anything because it's way too cold. And I would be playing more, but it's kind of difficult on the feet after a while. Like it genuinely like hurts to like walk around. And I played the other day and I still have like scrapes on my elbow and stuff.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's what you want.
Yeah. So, and there's a lot of people who say that they'll use it a lot more through the summers and stuff if it didn't like cut their feet and they can't walk for a couple days. Also, I can't talk for this guy, but we've played at different beach courts at like different places, like in like Fernie and like Red Deer and stuff. And the sand there, you could play for hours without getting cuts or anything. So it's kind of what we're looking for.
Chair Watson wanted clarification, and this is a question from a group as to whether we can replace the sand. I believe we are not in camera, so that is the purpose here. And it's something the staff is aware of and begun to action that we'll see on our capital plan. But I see in chat there was a question. Chair. Good chair.
A couple of my questions have been answered. But the other one is, two others. Do you ever invite other schools here, have tournaments on this facility?
We haven't yet
Because of the,
well, not necessarily because of the sand. It's also hard to like get other schools together. But I feel like if we had an actual like proper facility that we can at least run like youth tournaments and stuff like they do in Fernie.
and the other question, or maybe it's a comment. Thank you for looking into the cost of the sand. Of course, the larger factor is transporting it here. Had you looked into that, or do you know volume wise, how many truck and loads we're talking about?
I don't know exactly how many truckloads, but depending on the depth of the court, the delivery fee will probably bring you up to about 15 grand, I'd say, like total with everything. I mean, obviously it could vary to more or less depending on how deep the courts are.
That's your estimate, 15,000?
Yeah.
That's a figure you kind of assume as well, is that somewhere in that?
Yeah, no, through the chair, the original cost of the construction was closer to 50.
50, yeah. I remember you saying it was a lot more. And there was a suggestion of